I'm excited. A little nervous too.
I ain't scared.
We're live.
Holy shit. I took my gum out of my mouth, so we're good.
We're going to try this out, Dusty.
You're getting a bunch of comments already too.
Are you on right now, Scott, too? Can they see you?
They cannot see me. They can hear me for the moment.
Okay.
Yes.
You're meant to be
Hey,
seen,
everybody.
not heard.
We're just going to hang on for one sec here. We're doing episode, what are we, 62 now?
63.
63.
But does this count? Is this? Yeah, I guess it is technically, right? It's just with a lot more people.
Interesting.
What's that?
I have to turn the volume down on my other window.
Oh, yeah.
I was wondering what was happening. I'm like, why am I hearing so many things?
Is Palumbo a douchebag?
Yeah.
That's a question that just came in. Is Palumbo a douchebag?
There's lots of
It'll be fun.
I've always gotten along with Dave.
I like Dave too.
Let's see. Dave stops and says hi to me. Okay. So everybody, episode 63 sounds like we're going to go live. We're trying this out. We've been wanting to do this for a while. We've been wanting to test out the technology and, push the show. We got so many ideas for the show, but we have problems rolling them out.
But here we go. We're doing it.
Here we go.
Now.
So, Dusty, you look like a giant M&M.
I love M&Ms. Peanut ones. My favorite.
Yes. There you go. Your big fat green peanut M&M today. Hey.
Marketing. No big deal.
There you go.
So let's get this thing started, man. Hey, David Larson.
We got some people logged in already. Really great to see. We're happy to have you here for our live episode. Obviously going live is going to change things up a little bit, but we will probably forget we're live in a minute or two.
I've already forgotten.
Already forgotten?
My entire life is live, and I don't pay attention to anybody else on it, so it's cool.
We got a good show. So, there's nothing newsworthy going on in the States right now, is there?
Nothing at all. I didn't go vote today. Go Trump. 4 more years. I didn't say that. Oh.
Who was that? What happened?
What, huh? I like my money? What? Okay.
Did you see Chris Bell and Mark Bell's video from the rally?
No.
Oh, they got like these premium seats right by the stage. And Trump comes out and waves to the crowd, looks right at them and points and goes like,
no way.
Like goes, you got some muscles. Like he does some muscle gesture and then he waves and then he goes up to the microphone and they turn to the camera and they're like, wow.
That's sick.
And the joke was, Mark or Chris Bell did it with Arnold at that crowd.
Right.
Remember when he caught it on film and then he did it again with Trump? He got their attention. So it's something about Chris Bell.
Yeah, he's got it. I'll take him to a concert and see if I can get that shit going with a big concert.
So what's your prediction, Dusty? We don't really talk a lot of politics on this show. First of all, I actually watch a lot of political videos and commentary, and I try to see what's going on, but I don't really bring it up on the show because I'm not American, and I also sort of feel like I might have opinions on a lot of stuff, but I'm also kind of an idiot and I don't know everything. So I sort of like
that's all of us, though. I think that's the difference, though, is as long as you're not someone who pretends to know every little thing, then I think it's all right. And my stance is simple. I'm blown away at how many people can immediately knock someone off, like unfollow based on who they're voting for. Even though in our country you're supposed to be able to vote and everyone's supposed to have an opinion. Like, I don't care if you vote the opposite of me. That's your prerogative. Do your thing. I just disdain people who don't vote and bitch.
Yeah.
That's the only people I complain about. It's like, I don't care if you vote on the other side or whatever, as long as you're getting your voice heard. But it's the equivalent of being fat, eating bad and not going to the gym and then complaining that you're fat. Same idea. I went and voted today. I'm hopeful.
And your routine is almost so bulletproof you can't get you to step outside of it. So that was important to you.
It was frightening. And I was nervous, but now I'm more nervous because I was in and out in 10 minutes. And I was prepared I actually left here saying, God, I hope I can get back in time for the show. I only have 2 hours.
Right.
So that makes me slightly nervous because I'm like, why aren't people voting? And I know they can mail in and everything else, but like, I'm used to like waiting in a long line. So
right.
That was a little different.
That's one thing that's kind of funny about as a Canadian watching American politics, because in Canada, voting's really fast all the time. There's just so many polling stations. I've never even waited a single minute to vote.
No shit. Yeah, that was how it was for me. I
Literally
walked in,
right
signed in my paperwork, because obviously they've got you registered, knocked out my my voting, and was out the door in 10 minutes total.
What's your prediction?
Well, my hope is Trump, but Republicans are lazy voters, so I'm nervous that not enough people will get out there. And I think that there's a little bit of false security because there seems to be so much visual support that I hear a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's going to be easy," and I just don't think it will be. But here's the big thing that I always jam out there: I will be successful, and my life will not be. It'll just alter, but what I do will not change. And that's the thing. I think people like they act like they're going to wake up the day after it's decided and everything's going to be different. They're going to have more money in their pocket, or they're going to have less money in their pocket, or they're going to be successful, they're going to fail. Winners win. You know what I mean? So,
yep.
Although I've got my vote and what I hope happens, I'm going to win either way. So, it'd just be a whole hell of a lot easier in my tax bracket if we could leave Trump there so I don't get my ass kicked. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what, Dusty? They used to say, I remember when they used to say, it is your duty to vote in your own best interest.
Yeah.
That's what they used to tell us.
I still think it is. It's just
I remember growing
lazy.
It was pushed into me that you're supposed to vote for your own best interest. Like that was why you vote. Like vote for what you want. That's the country you're going to get. Like vote for what you want. And now it seems like they're telling you vote for what you're told.
Yeah. And I think the problem is you're being misled on what you're told too, because down in the States, I mean, everything is such bullshit. Like you need to do your homework if you really want to know what you're looking at. You can't just jump on any news station because they're all biased in one direction or the other.
It's incredible.
It's like if you ask my mother who the greatest person in the world, the greatest bodybuilder in the world, the greatest underwater basket weaver in the world, it's always going to be me. And that's what happens in the United States when you jump on a certain news channel.
Yeah. I love, like, I watch Bill Maher.
Yep.
And I like Bill Maher. But on a few things, I think he's an idiot. And then I watch Tucker Carlson. And I love Tucker Carlson. And then every once in a while, I'm like, I'm not interested in this episode. It doesn't really, I don't give a shit about this.
Right.
I think he's an idiot on this one. You know what I mean? Right. So my political viewing is like pretty ranged, and I try to take in a lot of opinions. And then as a Canadian too, from the outside looking in, I have American friends and relatives on both sides of this like completely fake divide that's been invented by the media.
Yep.
Like it's unbelievable to me to watch this happen. You know what? People ask me, who would you vote for if you were American? And I always tell them, well, I loathe identity politics. I despise cancel culture. I fucking hate commies. And I'm all for law and order. So you fucking figure it out yourself.
Right. Yeah. I'm anti-socialism. So
I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about what people do or say, or I don't even care if they're borderline senile. Right. I just care about that. Those things are important to me because, like you said, winners win. I can thrive and make myself. I'm going to be fine. You know what I mean? I hate our current prime minister, but I'm doing well.
Yep.
Even though I despise him, I don't blame him. Yeah. So yeah. So it's interesting to me to watch from the outside, and it is. I will say this: I think that it has been a spectacular and unbelievable spectacle to watch the Democrats do such a fucking terrible job of choosing candidates 2 elections in a row.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing, man. It's you know what though? I mean, without getting blasted into full political mode, because I do try to avoid that. Here's what I love. When I left the polling station and a bunch of other people there, I have no idea who they're voting for. I'm like, these are good Americans. Whatever they're doing, they're here to do their piece. And I dig that. Like, I left there like a little more like, you know, and I always do. I vote every year. And I actually am someone who votes on both sides all the time. I'm not a straight down chooser. I do my homework. But yeah, I think that it's cool when you leave and you're like, you know what? All of these people care.
Yeah.
And that's pretty sick. I mean, you know, and I have my opinions, but they're my opinion. You know what I mean? So I don't look and say, oh, that person's voting for this and he's an idiot. I'm like, I disagree. But it's much like bodybuilding. I mean, you know, I think it's funny that you can be a huge volume guy or a big proponent of something totally opposite of me and still support me as a bodybuilder. But you can't in these things. And I think that's comical. It's like, it's all good. And I mean, at the end of the day, my hope is that everyone wants the same thing, which is a better place to live.
Yeah.
And we're all trying to get there. And you know, like I said, as individuals, those of us who will win will find a way no matter what. It would just be a lot easier for me if it won the way I want it to.
Yeah, especially. One of my hopes is that you guys don't get caught up in some sort of recount quagmire.
Probably will.
Yeah, I would like to see this. You know, I
want it to be over so we could stop the bullshit.
Yeah, I think it's really best for the country if this ends tomorrow.
Yep.
And I really hope that we'll leave that as a closing political statement. I hope this ends for you guys tomorrow. Absolutely. And you can just move on into the next 4 years either way. So
we have no choice.
Yes. So Dusty being the responsible citizen. You know what the U.S. election reminds me of?
What's this?
It was the day after the 2016 election that I tore my quad.
And I was sitting with you at that election, and there was quite a few people surprised in the room on which side I voted on. And
I remember watching that election on TV. Yeah. And then the very next day I had my big blowout. Yeah. So it's funny. So it's kind of my 4-year anniversary coming up.
I don't like this anniversary. Let's move on.
No, I know. Okay, what's up? What else is going on? Tell us how training's going. You put up some interesting posts this week. You had a little bit of irritation in your voice about people not coming in shape. Let's hear it, Dusty.
Yeah, so I went to a local show here, and I think it's a little bit of pride, and I am literally that old fucking guy now. I can't stand myself that I look back and I remember when I was coming up, and there was only 3 shows in Arizona at the time. One of them was natural, and you actually didn't do that show if you weren't natural.
Right, it was a natural show.
Yeah,
which means no clen, no GH, no peptides,
nothing.
No songs, nothing.
And people actually used to follow that and not compete. But I went to Arizona.
Also, some of those people were shredded.
Yeah, diced out of their heads. But yeah, so this show, I was just disappointed because I haven't been to a show in years. And there was a handful of guys that were in good shape. Like, you know, and I mean, very respectful. I mean, respectable. You're not going to, not often do you see the dude who's inside out at a local show. But you usually see 1 or 2. This show, there was less than 5, and I'm saying bodybuilders because I had a few guys comment like, oh, I did men's physique. And I'm like, shit, I left before that because they made us put masks on. I was like, fuck you. But with the bodybuilding and the classic, the conditioning across the board, and I understand I'm a pro, so don't jam me in the face for this, but I am in better shape right now than 80% of the people that did that show. For sure. And that's not bragging because I'm not in great shape right now. So it's one of those things where I just remember back in the day, if you didn't know what to do, you got shredded. You did everything you could to get shredded. I mean, like I told you in the past, I lost muscle my first couple shows because I was like, all I know is don't be fat. And I remember I was told early on, find your fattest body part. And until that's in, you're not done.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You got to suffer. It was funny. I was talking to an old friend of mine who was one of my sort of like, he was one of the guys who was in the gym competing when I was just starting to train.
Right.
And I remember some of my early memories of, and he was just doing like the Northerns, like regional show. But back then it was a big deal. It's like, these are like the first bodybuilders I ever encountered, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And I was talking to him, and I remember watching him ride the stationary bike, and he'd have his hoodie on, but his hoodie he had a cut off hoodie. So it's cut off at the elbow, but he'd be like totally covered, but just his forearm sticking out. And I just remember, you know, that was the first time I saw like the fucking freaky forearms of a guy who's like peeled, right? Where you're like, oh my, like just nuts, you know, big fucking veins on them. And his hands were shredded. And then I remember seeing him in shorts for the first time, and just the veins everywhere on his legs, and how bony his ankles were, and how like I just remember the impact that left on like a 15-year-old, 16-year-old brain when I see this, you know, the side of the calf where all the tendons are popping out, even if the guy doesn't have great calves and he's shredded, even like the, you know, the tibialis is all fucked up, and just like that sort of impression. And I remember I said, you know, how did you used to diet? And like, this is he was like an 80s bodybuilder.
Right.
They didn't like weigh their food or anything. He just had a meal plan. He's like, I have a chicken breast and a baked potato at meal 2.
Right. Yeah.
That's the meal plan.
Idea what the baked potato weighs, but
chicken breast, baked potato. If it looks a little small, I have a little bit more potato. If it looks a little big, I chop some off.
Right.
But one thing they did was they went hard. Yep. He'd be like, oh, you know, like, you know, if I felt like I wasn't getting lean enough, I'd do like, you know, 3 days with just 0 carbs, and, you know, do an hour on the bike every day with 0 carbs for 3 days, and then just see how I looked, and, you know, maybe have a potato if I was flat. And, you know, maybe like every once in a while, if my weight would go down too fast, I'd have like a big bowl of oatmeal, and then I'd do like no carbs for a couple, like they just went hard. Like they didn't overthink everything. They didn't do a mathematical equation or check their fit app or type in the new food they found or scan a barcode or fucking look at the calorie number on the cardio machine.
Oh yeah.
I never once have looked at a calorie counter on a cardio machine. Not once in my whole fucking life. The only number I ever looked at on a cardio machine was a time.
Yeah. How long?
Yeah.
How long? How hard? I did the same. I think too that what I decided, whether it's accurate or not, when I left, was that, and I decided it's not just based on the show, but what I watch online and things. Everyone is so concerned. Like, for number one, your body's more resilient than you think. I have dieted for months on 50 grams of carbs or less. Yeah. My metabolism is fine. I have, you know, just suffered. I've done greens and fish for weeks because that's what I was told to do, and I got peeled. I'm not saying that there's not a better way, and anybody who works with me knows that I don't even call them refeed days. I do days where you need a little touch up and we come up. But I've got clients that don't get those. They don't need them. They don't, and that's not even because they're fat. They don't flatten out. Their body never tells me, hey, I need this. I think we've fallen into a culture of we follow rules. Like, well, you got to have a cheat day. Well, you got to have a high day. You got to have nothing. God doesn't exist. Like, you got to get in shape. and however that is, you know, because I've had clients doing 2 hours of cardio a day. I personally have never done more than 45 minutes. Right. It's not because, I mean, if I needed to do 5 hours of cardio a day, okay. Like, it's just whatever it takes. And I think that that's gotten lost. And the only thing that bothered me, most of the responses were positive. But one thing I thought was a little bit funny was I had a few people go on there and go, well, it's because a lot of people are doing this for fun and they're not wanting to put in that kind of effort to get in shape. And the only reason I kind of want to call bullshit on that is I have never spoken to someone that said, I'm just doing this because, and I'm not trying very hard. I'm not saying that they don't make adjustments and maybe say, oh, it's not worth it right now. But nobody that I've ever spoken to who got into bodybuilding went into it saying, I'm going to half-ass this and just get on stage.
Yeah, I don't really think there's very many people at all that are okay with getting their ass kicked.
Yeah, or not being like in shape. And again, and I understand there's levels. Like when I was in shape the first show, it wasn't the same in shape that I'm in now. I was trying, and I think it just was it kind of bothered me because I'm telling you right now, Ron, you and I go bowling, I want to beat you. If we play darts, I want to beat you. If Michael Jordan wants to play horse with me, I'm going for it. I'm
Right.
getting my ass kicked. Mike Tyson wants to fight me. I'm fighting.
Yeah.
He's going to kick my ass. But I'm not going to be like, well, it's Mike Tyson. I'm going to be like, well,
Yeah,
I'm getting my ass kicked either way. So hopefully he'll remember tomorrow too.
Yeah.
Like, probably not,
Yeah.
but I'm going to go for it. So just a weird thing, because I'm telling you now, I've seen dudes that are like 120 pounds, like peeled out of their heads. And I have went backstage at a show, walked back there specifically to find a kid and be like, wow, that's fucking nasty.
Oh,
You
yeah.
went through hell. I don't care how big, small, genetics. And that's how I met Jose. When I took 10th at nationals, I can still hear his voice from 30 yards away. You know, that was fucking nasty. Most disgusting. I don't give a shit what place you get. I'm like, you get respect because you went through hell.
Yeah. I've had a lot of inquiries lately about contest prep, and I'm trying to just be really clear with people. You know, if you're coming to me, I expect you to, kind of already understand why you're coming to me.
Right.
Like, it's not a fancy process,
Yeah.
at all. You're going to get a diet. You might not get another diet. It might be the only diet we use.
Yeah.
And it's just all about getting you in shape. And yeah, I liked your post. It was pretty funny, because it's nice when when you go to a show with a couple athletes and you're like, oh, all the people I helped are, the top
Well, I had that
edition of the show.
So I haven't been to a show since literally almost, I think it was last year actually. And it was so funny because I'm at the show and everybody notices because I don't usually go to the local shows. And I had people, oh, you got some athletes? I said, yeah. And there was a guy sitting in front of me and I'm just watching. And I had 4 guys in the light heavyweights. My entire crew were light heavyweights.
Yeah.
And this guy walks out and he's peeled. And the guy looks back at me and goes, yours? I'm like,
Yeah.
then there's another guy. Then another one walks out. He goes, yours too? I'm like, yeah. And they got top 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And they were all peeled. And to me, it's like, I'm not a genius. There's nothing complicated.
So you
but
had one
people
win.
know I had 1 win out of
And
all
3
of them.
losers.
Yeah. And they all showed up peeled. And I just think it's funny because it's like, only thing I do is ask them to do what it takes. It's not, that as well as, I mean, I was joking with my training partner because he's actually one of my clients, and I send your diet in an email. It's not even a Word doc. It sure as fuck doesn't have the calories and shit like that. I've had somebody say that to me one time. Oh, what's the macros of this? I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
I can figure it out, but I don't know.
I go through, I go through this a lot with people. I put approximate macros at the top.
Mm-hmm.
So I write a meal plan and I'm like, this is approximately 300 grams of carbs. We're going to kind of call these meals all 50 grams of carbs to start, and we'll go from there.
Right.
And then they punch it in their Fit app and they email me back. Well, with the vegetables and everything, this is 337.5 grams of carbs. I'm like, okay, that's fine. This doesn't change a thing. We're just like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't go by that. It's all about the food now. And then for the rest of the diet, I don't even look at the macros. I just pull out some rice, pull out some potato.
You know what they're eating.
Yeah, you know what they're eating.
It's the same that I say the same thing with people when they're using, that I use some sauces and things like that. I say, as long as they're constant.
Yeah, everything consistent,
Because what I can't have you do is not telling me and you weren't doing any sauces the whole time and all of a sudden you added 30 grams of carbs from sauce. And I don't know why you've paused out, because all I do is adjust the food based on what I know again. So if it's constant, it doesn't matter. Like,
yeah. And another thing too that frustrates a lot of people nowadays. Here I am sounding old again, Dusty. I can't fucking help myself.
We are old.
But one of the things now is, I come from the age where, like, bodybuilding meant consistency. That was like a foundational element.
Right.
Was things were the same every day.
Yep. Groundhog Day.
And you know what I mean? It's Groundhog Day, and it's a great day. You get to eat, sleep, and train. Nothing wrong with that.
Right.
And so when people are like, I understand variety. I mean, I'd switch my rice for potatoes sometimes, or I'd swap out some oatmeal for some rice cakes once in a while, or, there's a certain amount of variety, or you just run out of chicken. So you eat a lot of fish today. Like
Right.
that happens. But the sort of resistance to just doing the same thing every day is a lot more now. It used to be expected.
Right. Well, because it's taught now, like you don't have to eat that. You can eat a chocolate bar to get your carbs.
Yeah. And it's just a different reality to exist in. I'm just so used. So, sometimes people come to me and I don't like saying I'm old school, because that makes it sound like you drink distilled water and fucking make people, do crazy shit. But, I don't really like saying old school, but I just say, listen, I'm just like super simple. Like, you're not going to get anything fancy with me. You're going to wonder where the docks are.
Right. What's funny though, is at the end, because I do the same thing and I will tell people up front, at the end of this, you're going to look back and go, how did I get here with that? Because it's not fancy and it's nothing, but all of a sudden you're in the best shape of your life. And there's not like a reason. You're not like, oh, because there was that secret that he plopped in at the end. I was waiting for that. You know what I mean? I had a guy, actually, it's off season right now. And so funny enough, I haven't heard from him in a couple of days, so maybe he's mad at me. But he gave me the go ahead to go all in now on the off season because he's ready. And I said, we're already doing that. Like,
right.
If you're following what I told you, we're in. Like, we're in. The moment we started, we're in. So I think you're waiting for me to drop the hammer on the secret, like Days of Thunder. And
Days of Thunder.
Cold Trickle is not here, and we are already running our lap pace, and this is where we're staying. Like,
shake and bake.
So, it's literally just going to be, like you said, consistency. All you have to do is do this with the minor tweaks we do. And I promise when we start prep, you're going to look and go, how did I put on 13 pounds of muscle? We didn't do anything fancy. Nope. You just didn't fuck off.
Right. Yeah. That's,
and the same thing with prep. So yeah, I was happy because I wasn't trying to insult anyone specifically. It was as a whole, because just like you, I remember going to the shows and being amped because when I was not a bodybuilder yet, you knew, like, okay, Robert Farrow and Bryce Lewis and this guy, they're doing this show, and it's gonna be crazy. I wonder who's gonna win. And none of those guys turned pro, but they were all nasty. They'd get in shape, and I was just like, damn.
Yeah. I specifically remember the 2001 Nationals in Halifax, and I can't remember the dude's name, but he was like a good Canadian bodybuilder. He was from Newfoundland, and he showed up in the heavyweights, and he had ripple chip, shredded, disgusting glutes and off the chart conditioning. And he was a heavyweight, and he finished last.
Right.
And that doesn't happen anymore.
No,
like
no,
if
no,
you
no.
show up in shredded condition with peeled glutes that look like ripple potato chips, you're not last. They find a place for you because there's not enough people that look like that for you to be last.
Yeah, you can be, I guess the way I look at it is there's a reason that guys like me were able to win, because if everyone did what I did, I wouldn't have won.
Right.
And it sounds like a funny comment, but it's like, it's knowing where you stand genetically. And the amount of people I've beaten and I always say this, that would never have lost to me if they had my brain, is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because there's no way with their genetics that I would never lose if I had those genetics. It's just one of those deals, but I am hopeful because that was exciting. A lot of people commented in there that are in prep right now, and we're like, I needed to hear this.
Yeah. You know what? That's another thing too, is sometimes we say stuff and I'm like, fuck, I hope I don't, cause I'm a nice guy. And I'll be like, I hope I didn't accidentally hurt too many people's feelings with that. But then I'll get a bunch of messages like, I really need to hear that, man.
Yeah. It's nice when the people that are guilty of it are like, fuck, that's good. It got me out of this thing. I totally agree with you. I type it, and here's what I do when I like that post. I literally typed it up while eating a meal, and I hit send, and I don't look at it again. because I don't want to analyze what I said.
Yeah.
It is what it is. If there's typos, if there's whatever, I'm throwing it up, and then in like 4 hours, I might go look and try to clean up just how poor my English is. But overall, because I do want to get the point across, because it mattered enough that I left the show irritated, went to lunch, and was eating alone and was late for the training, and I had to write that post. It was bugging me.
Yeah. That's good. It was funny. I had a funny week. Remember last week I sort of went off. I kind of made fun of supersets.
Yes.
I had like 5 people in the gym specifically comment to me. They're like one guy comes up, he's like, "I'm really sorry, man, but I'm supersetting today." I was like, "Oh shit." And then one guy said, he's like, "Hey, like, does that really make you like mad? Because I superset all the time." And he was like a little bit worried. And I was like, "Oh geez, I didn't mean to like."
Yeah, gym owner Ron wasn't talking.
It wasn't gym owner Ron, I guess. It was just it was more coach Ron looking at like programs that make no sense.
Right.
Like if you can justify something to me that, like, if you're doing a weird fucking cable fucking exercise and I look at it and go, that technically doesn't make sense, your hand should be here and there, and you go, "Yeah, I know, but for some reason my pec fucking almost cramps when I do it." It's like, so I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to argue with you. If you really like something, that's fine. But it was just funny. I stepped on some toes. I didn't mean, I wasn't like being specific or overthinking it.
Well, think about it, though. You do things, and here, I agree with everything you said. And I also did a full video of Gina Davis's training that was 5 exercises in a row, kicked the shit out of me, and enjoyed the workout 7 months ago.
Yeah.
So also, I think people get lost with those things, and she definitely has a reason.
Yeah, that's
and there's an execution, and on and on and on. But I think sometimes people don't process that, and they go, "It's funny that you're saying that because I saw your workout video," and I'm like,
"Yeah,
you're not understanding the depth, and it's a different thing. She's designed it in a way that
she wrote it in a certain way. The exercises are picked for a certain reason, but I think there's a lot of people out there that are just assembling programs for people that they just want them to look fun and hard, and they're just, it literally makes no sense. That's the majority of what's going on.
Yeah, it is funny because I've had a few of those where someone's like kind of tried to drive home a point with me, and I'm like, I'm not going to argue because it's fine, but you missed it. So I'm just going to say, you're right. You're right. We should, I know we got some topics, but I feel like we should look at some of these questions because there's a lot of them.
Well, I got one here. You can look for one. This guy asked, Lucas said, "Hey, when you met Vic Richards, did you ask him about training tips? What was he like?" You said you saw him training at a gym in Australia. I didn't ask him about training or anything. I just know that Vic Richards was a huge volume guy. He would spend like, I used to hear stories about him spending 3-4 hours in the gym training, just pumping like endless volume.
Right.
So yeah, that's what Vic Richards was known for. He used to be at Gold's Venice for like hours and hours just training shoulders.
But maybe he had kids and he just didn't want to go home.
He's married with kids. Telling the wife he has a full-time job.
Yeah, it's like golf. I hate golf, but I don't want to go home. Okay, here's a good one actually. Justin King, transitioning from classic to bodybuilding. If you were in my shoes, what would the next month, years look like? Decisions you'd make, strategy, etc. Good question.
Transitioning from classic to bodybuilding?
Mm-hmm.
So he's going up.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he just wants to make sure he gets the most out of this offseason, assuming that he's going up because he already has to. Right? Like he already has enough weight to go up. Like maybe he had like a life, like bitch of a time making classic at his last show and it's just never going to happen again. Assuming he's already, got enough, he just needs to keep improving and putting muscle on in the right places. I mean, It's just bodybuilding. It's all the same. He's just going to get bigger and wind up standing on stage in a different pair of trunks. And he's allowed to hit lat spreads and most musculars. But other than that.
Yeah, that you nailed it. It's no different than if you were a guy who was never classic that just needs to be bigger.
Yeah, you just need to
get bigger. Don't be, the only thing I would say is, assuming you're actually a good classic guy, if I could make one tweak to my entire career, one piece of advice that I would give is don't be in a hurry. I look back, and as much as I genetically never had the greatest lines you've ever seen, the speed at which I went from decent size to really fucking big cost me in my look. If I would have taken another year, 2 years to get to the same point, I do believe I'd have been a better bodybuilder. And in hindsight, it would have been worth it to me to take the time and be better. I think I blew out my midsection a little bit because I was eating and training in a way that was all about how can I get from point A to point B as fast as possible. Right. And I think now the way I coach people is get them there as fast as possible without losing or making things that are already bad worse.
Yeah. I totally get what you're saying. I never blew out my midsection, but I definitely didn't have the midsection that I had at the end of my career when I was in the middle. You know what I mean? Like, when I look at the first time I won nationals in 2007, I mean, my shoulder to waist taper was just utterly ridiculous. Like, that's why I won. It was like that's why I was doing well, because all the other guys had bigger arms than me. They all were kind of bigger pound for inch height. I wasn't a spectacularly big super. I was just extremely wide with a crazy X frame, and people would literally come up to me after the show and say, your shoulder to waist is retarded. Like, it's fucking nuts. And then in 2009, I went up to 330 pounds, worked with Chad. Mm-hmm. And I remember that year I had a hard time with my midsection. Like, I just noticed that it wasn't as easy to flex. Like, I'd hit my ab shot and I'd look down and there'd be like a little bit of bulge to it.
Right.
And I'd have to really, really power it in, like down and to get it to flatten out the same. And I felt like it didn't ever flatten out the same.
Right.
And then, you know, towards the very end, like 2013, 14, 15, I noticed that, you know, it was a lot. Like, I had to consciously just like always hold it in when I was on stage. And I never even used to think about it. I used to just walk out and stand on stage with a tiny, tiny, tiny waist, just completely
you
relaxed.
didn't think it was just relaxed. It was tight.
Yeah. And so it did blow up on me, but it was just so small when I started.
That no one ever said that. It just compared to yourself.
Yeah. No one ever mentioned my midsection as like, oh, your midsection's growing, but I did. And it was like a worry for me. And I was like, fuck, you know, all this 320 plus stuff. Maybe it was just too much food. Maybe I was ignoring the stretch of the abdomen or whatever is going on inside. You know, so I definitely noticed that. And, you know, and then of course, a guy like me, if you're not overly big, you know, if let's say you've only got a 21-inch arm,
right,
it makes a huge difference whether you have a 34-inch waist or a 36-inch waist.
Oh, for sure. I think that's the thing I really wanted to drive home is, and this is coming from someone like myself that genetically is not pretty, is bigger is not always better. So make sure that your bigger is better. Like, take a little more time, bring it up, because Jordan Peters says the same thing. He said when he put on the most amount of mass, when he chased the how big can I get, how fast can I get, it altered his entire midsection. So that's just something to think about, because we are, and I'm guilty as hell, we are an instant gratification world. So we want to get there fast, but I think it's just important every now and then to go, okay, but am I getting there better?
Right.
You know, because I know Fuad has said the same. When we look back at our careers, like, I'll post a picture today from like 2005 when I was just getting into bodybuilding, and you would never have said I had a big waist. I didn't have round muscle or anything, but it definitely, the trade-off, I mean, I had to get bigger to win, don't get me wrong, but I really think had I been top 5 at the USA's national level in 2012 instead of 2010, it might have been worth it. That's all.
Yeah. I got a good one here.
Go ahead, fire.
Kind of a contest prep related. T3 dose. What sort of T3 doses do you see as reasonable? The question here is, you know, take it morning, evening. How does it compare to other, you know, fat burners, or what do you think of T3?
Number one, T3 is not a necessity at all. It's treated like one. But it's also, I'm going to go on the record and say it's also not this big scary thing that everybody makes out to be, that you're going to just fuck yourself over so quickly. With me, the T3 is just like everything else bodybuilding. Start as low as you can. I start at 12.5 with
Same
T3.
here.
And I don't go, I don't think I've ever went above 37 and a half for someone in a day, which is 1.5 T3.
50 is the ceiling that I've hit. Like,
yeah, so
anywhere between 12.5 and 50 is like max. And I remember the old days, guys used to run up to like, I remember, oh, I'm on 100.
Yeah.
Like, holy fuck.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that do that that are well-known coaches too. And I think what you want to factor in is T3 is much like dieting, meaning you can also bury your calories and suffer your way into shape, and it'll work, but it'll stop working eventually. Your body will start to fight that plan. So same thing with T3. Start low, and the other thing is don't be afraid to stagger. Like I'll do 12.5, then 25, then back down to 12.5. The other thing that a lot of people don't realize is T3 will make you look flat. And this is where things get tricky because I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. But being flat is not always a bad thing in prep. Everyone's like, oh, I'm flat. I'm like, I don't give a shit. Your show's in 6 weeks. Yeah. But that being said, sometimes if you look a little flat, just pull out your T3 for a couple of days. Don't change the diet at all. Yeah. And all of a sudden it fills right back up. So you need to know those kind of things if you're doing your own prep or if you're coaching people, because a lot of times like, oh, I should feed you a bunch of food. And I'm like, but if you have them on 50 micrograms of T3, maybe you should just bring that down for a couple of days and they don't need any more food.
Yeah.
You know,
Aceto used to tweak my Cytomel dose constantly.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the most frequently tweaked things. He'd be like, hey, do 25 for 3 days and send me pictures. And then you go to 12.5 and do no cardio for 2 days.
Yep.
Same food.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the no cardio and the drop of the Cytomel was in Chris's mind the same as a calorie bump.
It is a calorie bump.
Right.
Because the amount of calories you're burning is going down.
Exactly. It's all about the math.
Yep.
And
everyone jams with that and loses track of that. It's like, I hate when I see someone get a higher day and they're like, yeah, I'm going to train for 3 hours today. It's going to be the hardest workout of my life. I'm like, you're defeating the purpose. I would rather you half-ass it, eat the food, don't do cardio, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
I got a basic one I got to answer here. Someone was asking about affordable mattresses and pillows for quality sleep. I don't know if they have this up there, but in the States, they have something called Tuft and Needle mattresses. Their website just tn.com. There, you can literally get like a king size mattress for like $800 or $900. And I've actually probably bought 4 of them. I tend to need new mattresses often. Moving, trading, giving away. And literally anyone who's ever slept in one of my guest rooms is like, oh my God, what did that mattress cost? I'm like, it was cheap as shit. So
really?
Yeah, they're awesome. Like I actually got rid of a $5,000 mattress for one of these and would never go back.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Okay.
So what do you got? You got a good one?
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, you know me. I get sentimental about the stuff that I grew up with. And we had Sean Connery die this week.
Oh. Yeah,
what do you mean?
I see. Him dying is no bueno.
Oh, yeah.
Legends live forever.
Yeah, I know. What do you think? What are some of your favorite Connery movies?
Oh fuck. Let's see. I mean, I'm thinking of like the more recent ones because obviously it's funny. Our age gap isn't that large.
No, but it's culturally significant.
Yeah, it's a large like things that you're like, oh, this. I'm like, I've never seen that.
Yeah, there's a few things. Yeah, you're right.
I don't know what that one is. So literally like I'd be thinking things like what was the Rock was a good one that I loved that had him. You know what I mean? But I'm sure there's much more classic Connerys that people are like, really? That's what you're going with?
Hey, The Rock's a good one. The Rock was a great movie. And you got the gray-haired, gray-bearded Connery in that one, too. That was a good one. There's Highlander, which to watch now is a little dated, right? Because it was made in like the 80s. Mm-hmm. But it was an amazing, legendary movie about, the immortals with the swords that, have to kind of have the final battle. Connery was a legend in that one. And of course, all the early Bond movies that I talked about in my post. I don't know if you saw that, but I did a kind of a James Bond tribute post because I grew up watching the Connery Bonds. Right. And then, of course, another one that I just watched not long ago, for the hell of it, but was the Untouchables.
Yes, I did see that one. So,
and for people who haven't seen the Untouchables but love gangster movies, I mean, if you're a Goodfellas guy and a Casino guy and all those movies, you got to see the Untouchables, because it's a classic, like, ridiculous cast. It's got Connery and De Niro in it. It's just nuts. Andy Garcia, like some of the greatest gangster movie actors they could possibly ram into one. It's just a classic movie. With another thing about the Untouchables is I've had people tell me that they finally watched it.
Right.
And there's like several moments in the movie that are kind of cultural references that they never got before.
Right. They heard him but didn't know why, and now they know.
Yeah, they're like, oh, how's that little thing he did? Okay, yeah, that's why that's funny. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's one of those movies that sort of it won a bunch of Oscars at the time. But yeah, that might be. I've had a lot of people say they love my old movie recommendations, like when you watched True Romance.
Yep.
Yeah, so I definitely send everyone to watch The Untouchables. So.
I love that these are the gems that I tell people to watch out for. I literally will tell people, I'm like, two things. Listen to Ron, because the amount of useless information that's in his brain is unbelievable. And number two, if I have like a really good story, I want to hand it to you and have you read it over and then you tell it. Because I'm like, it's so much more complete if I let Ron tell my story. He wasn't even there, but he tells the story better than I do.
We're getting some good ones on the side. I appreciate that. Sometimes I wonder who wants to hear it.
Oh God, these are classics.
Okay, we have like a total bodybuilding and bollocks question here.
What is it?
This is something I would you rather fight 100 feral donkeys or 1 T-Rex?
That's a direct copy.
Is it a copy?
Oh, it's not the exact thing, but don't you remember when Luke went on about the 100 tiny bears?
Oh yeah, the tiny bears.
I think I've probably watched that clip like 700 times. I've forwarded to people who don't even know bodybuilding. I'm like, just trust me, you're gonna love this shit. And they will literally be like, I don't know who that guy was, but it's fucking hysterical. Because he got so pissed off.
The best part was that, like, who was it that wanted to fight the small bears?
Luke.
It was Luke.
Luke said he could fight the small bears. And
Fuad's like, no, I'm from Canada. You don't know what bears are. Like, even small bears are terrifying.
But that's what he said. He goes, the only thing scary about a bear is it's 800 fucking pounds. That was Luke. He's like, so imagine an 800-pound fucking duck. Oh God. Yeah, see, it's that literally, I've said that to so many people, and they all reference so many things, like, because he's talking about how the bears, their teeth are like grains of rice. Or no, their claws would be like grains of rice.
Razor sharp grains of rice.
Exactly. Oh shit, those are classic. Oh God, let's see. God, we have a lot of questions. We need to start banging these out with a little less detail, mister.
Okay, can you switch from a long ester to a short ester during a cycle? Any benefits really, or is it bad at all if you ran out of one too soon and had to substitute another one in?
Well, I mean, if you have to, you have to. I mean, you just told me you ran out in the middle. I'm a little confused on how that happens mathematically, because you know how much you have and how much you take.
Oh, right. Mr. Organization here.
Like, plus, I mean, I am, like, all kidding aside, like, to me with bodybuilding, because clients will say, like, well, how long are you going to do this? I'm like, I don't know. So if I think you need 4 bottles, get 6.
Right.
Like, just don't run out. But yeah, you can switch. It's not going to kill you. Understand how half-lives work. Most of you guys don't do that anyways. So it barely matters to you because you're not even really paying attention. So as long as you're getting in, all I would make sure of is if, say, you're taking 1 shot a week of cypionate and you switch to propionate, then take 3 shots a week to equal the same amount. And you won't even know the change. It's just your blood levels the stability of them is a little different.
That's what I tell people all the time. It's just the ester. Your body doesn't give a shit. Just know your half-lives. Most people don't, like,
good news. That's why you have me.
Most people think stuff is in and out so much faster than it actually is.
Oh yeah.
like the one guy was saying to me, oh, well, you have, like, I think I had him taking 100 megs of Tren 3 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, no, I've been breaking it down into, 37.5 milligrams every X hours or whatever the fuck, And I'm like, dude, so I drew it out on a chart,
Mm-hmm.
and I wrote like 100, and then 3 days later, 50, and then 3 days later, 25. And then I put the next shot in at 100, 50, 25 with the half-lives. And then I showed him how, like, after a week, everything was just level constantly.
Right. Well, plus I think what it is, how that happened is because if you wanted perfect blood levels of testosterone,
right,
I was giving you 200, and I was giving you 200 a week, you would be better off to take exactly 1/7 of that a day, because then you could turn around and do the same way. Because the argument is simple. Guys are taking, say, their estrogen blockers every day, and it's a moving target because their testosterone is going up and down. And I get it, and it's accurate. But for that to truly work, and I have done it, you also need compounding pharmacies that make the exact amount of Arimidex or whatever you need daily as well.
Yeah.
So yes, on paper, in a Bunsen burner and beakers, it's accurate. But the amount of mental masturbation going in for a guy who still uses a cup of rice instead of grams kind of bothers me.
Yeah. Or he's throwing in a couple Quest bars a day because they don't count.
Yeah, so that's the stuff that, I mean, truthfully, like you'd want to be thinking about, because I do feel that we overcomplicate some things and then undercomplicate others, because at the end of the day, it's the same way I view a lot of people with religion. Well, I don't really want to listen to that part, so that's not a big deal. Right. But this over here is a must. So, but yeah, you can switch them out, no problem.
Man, I didn't expect to have so many people online.
Here's a question. When able, will Mutant on a Mission be back? And will Dusty be joining now, since the success of the podcast is Dino's in the cards again?
Well, the news on Mutant on a Mission is that Mutant has told me that they want to continue the series starting in the new year. Even if that means just doing Canadian gyms for a while, if I can't go anywhere. Mm-hmm. But they want to continue the series starting in the new year. So that's all I know for sure. We only got 2 episodes done for season 6. We started season 6 there. I hit Mark Bell's super training and my buddy Morgan's Max Muscle gym, and we got 2 great episodes done. And then COVID hit, so they do want to continue. And a return to Dino's is always in the card if I go to Body Power. That's sort of how that looks. If Mutant never sends me to England for Body Power, then there's always the opportunity to film at Dino's. So that's all my Mutant on a Mission news.
Yeah, I can't wait for that to get rolling again too, just because it's something that I've used as homework. Like, because especially now that I'm looking at some pieces, I have found, not across the board, but in a lot of ways, as equipment has evolved, it's gotten worse. So a lot of what I'm envisioning for my space, and even for Muscle Factory where I'm training now, is equipment that I got to find. You know what I mean? Because there is some good stuff, and I've had some companies taking care of us, but there are, I mean, I don't know if we haven't seen it yet, but the old gym that I trained at with Dante, there's equipment in there that literally, I wanted to steal the equipment and take it home. It was so good.
Yeah, he sent me a walkthrough video.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, so I saw everything he had, like, back during COVID. He's like, look at the chain on this cable row, and look at this, and look at this. And he's like, yeah, it was pretty wild, that place, man. That's like what year is it when you walk in that room?
Oh, it was immediately the 70s. I had never been there before. My hair grew immediately, which was cool. So this guy had the long wavy look like Metzger.
Was he awesome. Playing Black Sabbath?
The best part is there was literally carpet in there that was clean, but it was also put in the day that all the equipment went in there in 1972.
I love that. Was there big long threads ripped out of it and big holes worn in it?
Funny colors, because but I mean, literally the crazy thing was the equipment was flawless. And Dante pointed it out, and I never try to, I try to not really jam home weight as much anymore because people have lost the fact that what I'm trying to display in my videos is actually intensity. And it's just, that's the amount of weight required for me to do that. But I'm telling you, like, you put 300 pounds on one of those, it was 300 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there were no going through 7 pulleys and you were getting 126 in your hands. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think it went through a reverse pulley and 300 was 325. I'm like, okay, that's fucking heavy. Let's do this. But it was awesome.
I've got one here.
Shoot.
You've got 3 guaranteed respawns in this life. Like a video game. Yeah, you can die and you're fine.
Okay.
What risks and chances do you take?
Oh my God, I've already done them.
Well, you didn't do big enough ones because they didn't kill you. You get 3 guaranteed respawns.
Man, what would I do? This is crazy because I mean, like, you can't help but bring things down. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you're talking about death.
Yeah. Is there anything that's just too risky for you to try?
Well, I mean, like, this isn't now, but when I was younger, I loved doing. I've skydived, I've jumped out of airplanes, I've bungee jumped, all that. I guess one thing I never did that I would like to do would be free climbing. It's nothing. Because there is something to be said. I can tell you, like, for example, a lot of people don't understand that for me, bungee jumping was far scarier than skydiving. You're nowhere near the ground. You know that the chute's gonna, like, there was nothing. You also don't feel the rush. Your stomach doesn't pull like a roller coaster when you jump out of an airplane. When you jump off of a bridge, the ground is right fucking there. And when it grabs, when the bungee pulls, you feel your stomach end up in your throat and back down. Or if you do it over water, you can actually hit the water, which is kind of fun. But because of that, I was more drawn to bungee jumping than I was to skydiving because I liked the rush of it. So I could totally see that with, like, free climbing because it's like, well, I could die. If I fuck up, I die. You know, which if you're into that kind of shit, it does add a rush. It's like gambling. You know what I mean? Gambling is not exciting if you enjoy playing unless there's a little bit of fear of losing.
Yeah.
And that's, like, for me, I used to gamble a lot when I was younger because the amount of money it took to give me a rush was low enough it didn't hurt me if I lost. And now to get that same rush, I'm not willing to risk that amount of money. So I don't want to play anymore. It's like 300 used to do it. Now it'd be like 3,000. Like, I don't want to lose $3,000 on fucking hand of cards.
I think guaranteed respawns. You do whatever you want. I would do like, I don't know who I'd pick, but I'd do just a kamikaze Vegas drug binge with Led Zeppelin in the 70s or with like David Lee Roth in the 80s. Just go to Vegas and just do all the drugs and bang all the hookers and just go to you have a heart attack. And then wake up the next day and you're in your own bed. You're like, I used one up.
Do you apologize to Emily when you get home, or how does that work?
Well, you died. She says happy you're back. It's like it never happened. It's a respawn.
But I don't know, though. I could still see her looking at you and go, I just think it's kind of funny that.
I think
it's funny that you said that you died
of my relationship and just going with the Vegas drug binge with some crazy rocker. I don't know in reality who the funnest rocker would be.
I think that if I was going to do the exact same thing, though, just based on knowledge, I would go with Dennis Rodman.
Dennis Rodman. Okay, you're just going to go to Vegas with Rodman for a week and
I think I would die on day 2.
You're not coming back. Like, you're planning to try to die by Thursday, not even make the weekend.
And I think he could supply that for me pretty easily. From what I understand.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's one of the. I would use a respawn on that just to see what that experience would be like. You know.
I like where your head was at with that. It's a solid one.
You only live once, man. There's certain things I didn't do for a reason.
You thought them. You had a thought process.
Yeah. You ever dip your toe in something and you're like, oh, that's what's that about? I would die if I keep doing that.
Yeah. No, I've had just a couple of those weekends in Vegas, not of the brink of death or anything, but even a tough, a rockin' 48 hours. You crawl. I remember actually I should, let's see if I can find it. I have a picture of me in the back of a limo, and I had like $5,000 all opened up, and I planned on spending it. Like we weren't gambling. And then coming back, I'm in sunglasses, and I got like $20, and it was worth every penny, and I'll never do it again. Right. Like that was awesome. We're never doing that shit again.
I remember being you know how sometimes, I don't know how to put this. Have you ever been at the strippers in Vegas, Dusty? And you're giving them lots of money and you know it's a waste.
Right.
But it's sort of in the spirit of it and everyone's having fun. So you and it just keeps going. And you're like, well, I'm just paying to have a fun night out. At least I don't gamble.
Right. Well, you're that's the thing though, is you're buying the entertainment. You know what you're doing.
You know what you're doing.
You're not expensive. The moron that thinks that she's coming home with you.
Right. And I've already spent the money in my head. Like before I even got on the plane, I'm like, I'm going to waste money on something this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's
what Vegas is for, in my opinion.
You're like $800. Where did that go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of my where did those go moments had Jose involved in alcohol. So.
I was just going to say, it's funny I mentioned $800 because I picked up a tab once at an Australian restaurant with Jose and his girlfriend.
Right.
There's some other people there, and Andy had bought dinner the night before at a restaurant, and Jose had paid for lunch, and I thought, well, it's my turn to pay, but we just happened to be at the most expensive of all three meals. And I wasn't really thinking. I was like, my turn to pay. I'm a good guy. Threw down the card. $800 was the bill for dinner. I'm like, holy fuck, okay.
Shit. All right then.
That's how I know Jose thinks I'm a good guy, because he's like, I remember he looked at that bill and he's like, damn.
That mutant must be doing you well, or you're just dumb.
That's a question. Here's a question. When Rich Piana left Mutant and formed 5%, did Rich ask either one of you to join him? Would you have considered? Well, first of all, you weren't on the team yet.
Nope.
Right. So, no, Rich didn't ask me to go. Rich talked to me about it, and he said, you've got a great thing going. Make sure they promote you. Make sure they keep this show that you have, because I just started Mutant on a Mission, right?
Right.
It was all about make sure they keep doing this. This is awesome. You're right. This is a great idea. You know, that sort of thing. So no, he didn't ask me to come, but I know I would have been welcome if I would have wanted to, but you got one there, Dusty?
I have hundreds. I'm literally
Are you on Instagram or are you looking at the chat here?
No, I'm just at the chat. I'm gonna have to answer all the Instagrams on my own here separately, because I feel like we got to nail these ones here. Right. You know.
Oh, go ahead. You're about to say one. Who's gonna win the British show?
Oh, well, my money's on Hollingshead for sure.
Yeah, my money's on Hollingshead too. You know why?
Well, I know why for me.
Because of what's between his ears.
You know who? It's funny. My training partner Will said this. Hollingshead is Dorian's mentality reborn.
Well, yeah, we talked about that. Remember a couple episodes ago, we talked about the parallels.
Yeah, I mean, because it's just what I appreciate is this is just what you do, and he does a great job of bringing you along for the ride, which I dig. Yeah. And I'm not talking about progress pictures. I'm talking about even the mentality. Like, I feel like, so when I tell people stop being a pussy, it sounds very degrading and I'm an asshole. When he says it, it sounds like I want to be more like James. Yeah. The way he puts it, and I mean that because he's not an asshole. It's just James is this is how it's supposed to be. And he's right. You know what I mean? But it doesn't come off as horrifically as it does when I do it. It's terrible. Yeah. I'm the foo-out of the situation. We're like, why are you such a dick? And I'm like, what? I was trying to be nice.
No, James, I'm rooting for James. Full support. Here's a good one. Just moved states for work and had to break up with my gym partner of 3 years. How would you look for a new gym partner, or would you just train solo for a while?
Well, me, I would find one easily. I would just put up a post and call it a day. Um, but if I didn't have that option, I would just train. I train awesome alone.
Yeah.
The only issue I have when it comes to training partners is if I'm expecting you to come and you don't show, that fucks me up because I'm in a different mindset.
Right.
You know, but when I show up to a gym to train alone, I can kill a workout. So I would train solo, and I think usually the people who should, my experience has been the people who should show up do.
Right.
I think I probably have one of the greatest runs of awesome training partners in the history of the world. I don't know how I've gotten so lucky, but I've had many awesome training partners.
Well, you attract them. I would give the same advice I would give a relationship. I would say stay single for a while.
Do you?
Do you stay single for a while? Get used to the new gym. Make sure you find the gym you like. You don't want to join the wrong gym and then go to another gym and go, oh, fuck, this gym's better. You know, surf around, go to the gyms, check them out. Make sure you know where you're going to train. I would be very slow. I still tell people this. Everyone sees me training with a partner now, but they don't realize I trained alone for over half of my bodybuilding. And I love training alone compared to training with 95% of other people.
Right.
You know, I'd rather train alone than train with most people. Right. And it's not even like, I just actually really like the isolation of training alone too. Like, people don't realize my whole life I got really into my music. Mm-hmm. Like I don't just have it on as background noise. I'm listening to it. Like I'm listening between songs. I'm listening to like the guitar notes and the drums, and I'm like breaking it down. It's like, so I actually think about it between sets because it's like really ties in with my mindset, and you know, music really stimulates me. So I'm really listening to my music. I don't need anyone there. I'm in my own world. I'm perfectly happy to be completely alone. But when I find a great partner who's fun to train with and likes to go hard, that's a benefit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you have one partner or two partners right now?
I have one. I train with Braden every day. He's great. Plus, we're in a situation now where, you know, Braden wants to get big, and, you know, I'm sort of done progressing. You know, I'm just trying to kind of like keep looking great and stay strong and stay healthy. So we're chasing his progression now. So when we go to the gym and it's leg day, it's our second leg workout in the rotation. I know we're doing the gray hack squat early, mm-hmm. and I know that he's going to set a new record.
Right.
And we're going to make fucking sure it happens. You know, if he did five plates for 8 the week before, he's getting at least 9 this week. And then I know that I want to have a really great set with anything in a certain range that would make me happy for quality, like a quality fail set that I, you know, and keep my strength up and stay healthy and move well and all that stuff. So my set is also on my brain, and it's a different type of progress. I know the numbers aren't going to go up because I'm, you know, HRT guy retired. So I know the numbers are down. I'm not going to be using the crazy weights, but I want a great set compared to last week's set. Mm-hmm. You know, if I got 4.5 plates for 14 last week, I want at least 14 this week.
Right.
If I get 15, that's fucking awesome. If I get 12 and the reps were maybe a little slower, or if the set was better, that's also fine. I'm not emotionally hooked on it, but it's like, great. I love it. It's another win. Right. You know? And then if he blasts an extra rep or something on his set, then like we crushed it. And I know that our training is being very productive.
Yeah, I've literally, as the whole time you're talking, I'm listening and I'm thinking like, you have to be ready, like, to be done, to do what you're doing. Like,
yeah,
you know, and it's a very, like, because I actually fully understand, and I'm trying to figure out a way to word this to get your mindset on it, but I fully understand why people have a hard time walking away, because I don't care what anybody says, Ron Partlow is a bodybuilder. Like, I used to argue the opposite direction. I've said this a million times. I used to say bodybuilding is not who I am, it's what I do. And now I realize, no, bullshit. It is absolutely who I am. So, and it absolutely has been who you are for even longer than me. How'd your brain do that flip? I mean, you just wake up one day and you're like, I came, I saw, I conquered. I mean, how did you flip that off?
Very gradual, man. It's been a very gradual 5 years of, and I sort of see 5 years as like a fast exit from
Right.
what I was doing for 25 years. You know,
Because you're still bodybuilding, you're still following a diet, you still look.
Yeah.
I mean, truthfully, if you ask most people as far as shirt off and said, okay, percentage wise year round, they'd be like, well, you look better now because you're always in shape.
Right.
You always look. I'm not even talking about size versus size. I'm talking about, you know, there are definitely points in your off season, at least for me, and maybe it's just because I'm weak minded, where someone's like, yeah, let's head out to the pool. I'm like, ooh, the pool?
Yeah. Not a good pool day.
You're sure?
I totally get it. And it was a very gradual process, and it was sort of a long acceptance of, you know, father time being a real thing. And also too, like, it really helps when you see other people going through it as well. You know, I mean, you know, like watching Mark Bell transform himself, or watching Jay Cutler retire and transform himself, and see how positive of an impact he can still make. And you realize nobody gives a fuck about the 50 pounds.
Right.
Nobody. And while you're in the bodybuilding mindset, and you're a pro bodybuilder and you're training that way, you think like, well, I can't lose 50 pounds. I mean, my sponsors are going to care.
Right.
The sponsor doesn't care.
Right.
None of my clients care. None of my friends care. None of the people who follow me give a shit that I lost 50 pounds. No one seems to care. And when you just see it sort of like, you know, I was 320 for so many off seasons, and then I was like, I'm going to stay around 300. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to rehab my leg. Okay, I'm going to sit around 290 because I'm taking less gear and I'm not really sure what's going on. Okay, I'm definitely done competing. I'm 280 I'm happy with.
Right.
Okay, you know, I've got a lot of injuries. Let's just look really good. Okay, now I'm aiming for 255. And then no one seems to be like, you realize that it's all in your head. Like, you know, you're, like you said, you know, the bodybuilding is what I am, a bodybuilder. And then you start doing other things, like, you know, when I talk about my fucking new hobby here with the bike, you see the bodybuilder just can't help but it's there. It's always there. How many reps do I have to do to be successful at this thing I'm doing?
Right.
You know? And also
I definitely get that transition, because there are things that I look forward to doing.
Yeah.
That I can't, like, it's comical to me at how unathletic I am now. Like, it's almost, as an athlete, you're embarrassed because you're like, dude, it's pathetic what you can't do. But yeah, I just wondered, because it's a goal of mine to shrink actually as fast as possible when I'm done, just because, like you, I will need a new obsession.
There's some stuff that really bugs you, because, you know, you're always a bodybuilder, right? So like every once in a while, I'll sit down and I'll like look down at my legs, and I'm like, fuck, they don't look very big in these pants anymore. Because, you know, like, I used to sit down and my like pants would be just mashed together in the middle because there was just so much adductor, you know? And, you know, I never had the biggest legs, but I had big legs. Like, they were like 33 inches at one point.
Right.
I mean, put a tape measure around your leg and put it at 33, the average person, and see how much room is left.
Right. They could fit two of them.
Yeah. Like, I had 33 inch thighs, you know, at one point. And, you know, now I think they're like 29 and a half or something. So to me, they're just like, I feel like a swimmer.
Well, it's just such a different thing, though, because I'm sure you remember, and I bring this stuff up because there's guys, like you said, like your training partner, they're coming up. Because I remember, so when I first decided I was going to get huge, I remember I'd put on clothes, like, before I'd go out, like out for dinner, and I'd be like, ooh, this shirt doesn't make me look big. So I'd change.
Yeah.
Then when you get really big, you're doing the opposite. You're like, I can't wear this. I look like I look like that guy. Like, I never wanted to wear tighter shirts when I was really big, because I felt like you're that douchebag that his entire life revolves on being big. It's not that it doesn't, but it's like, I'm at a restaurant. I'm not trying, you know what I mean? And then, so I always wonder, how's it work when you back your way back out? Because I haven't gotten to that part yet.
I catch myself occasionally, because I'm sort of too far the other way now. I used to, let's say I had a sleeveless shirt on, and I had like a 22-inch pump going on, you know, I would throw a hoodie on before I went into the grocery store.
Yeah, for sure. Me too.
Or if I was dieting for a show and I looked freaky, I would throw a hoodie on because I just didn't want I didn't want to deal with any of it. But now if I have a sleeveless shirt on, I think, oh, I'm small now. I just look normal.
Which you are far from normal, but yes, I totally know what you mean.
I'm small now. I'm like, oh, I just look like an athletic dude with a sleeveless shirt on. And I walk into Safeway and everyone's like, I'm like, oh shit, yeah, it's just the perception.
Levels of this shit.
But it's funny when you realize, when you become self-aware of the false perception, then you're aware, and then you just laugh about it. You're like, oh shit, it's so funny.
Right.
But yeah, I don't even remember what we were talking about. I like this.
That's what we do.
It's
like we're basically just at Earl's having food with a bunch of people watching.
I got a great one. I love this shit. If you could go back in time and compete in one Olympia, what year would it be?
I'm thinking of all my favorite ones to watch. Okay, I know my answer, but it's not for any reason that people would think. I would do the 2001 Mr. Olympia. And the reason is the connection to 9/11 that year was unreal. I don't know if you remember. That was 01, right? Yeah, 01 with 9/11. Yep. And that was also the year that Jay put his stamp on the sport.
Yeah.
But I remember, like, for that show, as cool as that was, Lavroni's routine with the president in the background, the voiceovers from after the attacks, and then he played Hero, Enrique Iglesias song. Like, that whole show was kind of like, as an American, it was a stand-up kind of moment. You know what I mean?
Very proud moment.
More importantly, still standing. You know what I mean? So that would be my one.
A great, I'm Canadian, so once again, I feel like I'm, stepping into your business. But I feel like that was a glorious time for your country, and it was a glorious time because of the amount of unity that was everywhere.
One thing that was interesting that you may or may not know was it's the only time where you really weren't allowed to be outspoken against what the whole said, to the point that one really popular country band spoke out against the war, and their career ended.
Are you talking about the Dixie Chicks?
Yeah, they're done.
Yeah.
Like, you weren't allowed.
Yeah.
And everyone knew it. It was one of those things where it was like, you were so popular, and the entire country said, "Oh, okay, well then, fuck you."
Yeah, it was interesting.
And that's what I mean by they.
I think they just released an album, but they're just called the Chicks now.
And how funny is this? I don't even know.
Yeah.
Because, truthfully, that's a funny factor when you look at, like you said, unity. Because, right now, we don't have unity. There's fighting, and there's a divide down the middle, or an imaginary divide. That was a time where it's like, oh no, you don't get to say that. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, yeah, you don't get to have an altering opinion on this one. Sorry.
Right.
So, but yeah, that'd be my year. Plus, let's also factor in, like, when you look back, that's when I first started really getting into bodybuilding. Imagine Dexter Jackson being like the small guy getting ninth.
Yeah.
And also imagine ninth being bad.
Yeah. Top 10 at the O.
You didn't answer, Dick.
There's lots of great years. There's lots of great years. I
have a guess for your year, though, so just so you know. So when you're about to say it, I want to guess.
Okay. What are you gonna guess?
I was gonna guess for you 93. Okay, go ahead.
No, that was probably the first one that I thought of because of Dorian's crushing win. It would have been quite something to see. But I actually would have loved to have been on stage for the 2009 Olympia. And it's because it has, listen to the top six. People forget. 6th place, Victor Martinez. 5th place, Phil Heath. 4th place, Kai Green. 3rd place, Dexter Jackson. 2nd place, Branch Warren. 1st place, Jay Cutler. That top 6 is fucking unbelievable. And, you also had Dennis James, Marcus Rule. You had Dennis Wolf was last that year. That was his cookie year.
Right. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that.
So yeah, just a crazy Olympia would have been fun to be on stage. You know, because then I could have got that shot. You know, when you're the last place guy, but in the numbers, you happen to stand next to Jay in the lineup, so you get the photo next to Jay. Never know. Maybe it might have been a dream come true. Here's me compared to Jay and Dexter.
You know what my favorite, speaking of that, one of my favorite memories was the 2002 Ironman. Okay. So they've got everybody fanned out to the sides. I was at the show for prejudging, and Gustavo Bedell is next to Jay Cutler, right? And they're in the lineup, and Gustavo's like elbows around him and makes sure he's standing in front of Jay. And Jay looks at him kind of like, and then looks forward, and then Demedia goes, Jay Cutler to the center, and he kind of looks at him and just walks by like, the fuck are you doing? I mean, it was just, I remember watching that. I got such a kick out because I don't even know if it's in a video, but it's one of those things where he was battling for position before the callouts. With the guy who won before the show started.
I don't know Gustavo Bedell. I never met him, but he did something that I always thought was so lame.
What, dry humping Jay when he won?
Yes. When Jay Cutler was announced the winner, it was like read the room, buddy.
Yeah.
Like Jay's having a moment, Ronnie's having a moment, everyone's having a moment because they love Jay and they love Ronnie, and we're dealing with victory and pain, and we're all going through it, and we love these two guys. And he runs in there and jumps on Jay and gives him a hug so enthusiastically that I found it insulting to Ronnie Coleman.
Oh, for sure. I think everybody did.
And that always bothered me. I always thought that was lame. I'm like, just settle down, buddy. You don't have to be in there fucking hugging him. Like, let his wife or whoever the fuck's gonna come up and, like, you know what?
His mom gets to do that.
His mom
and even she knew better than to do that.
Yeah, like you didn't see Dexter running and jumping on him. Dexter's like, you know, everyone's like chilling out, like chill out.
Well, even I remember because they had told Jay and Ronnie already.
Yeah, they told Ronnie. They let Ronnie know. Yeah.
So he wasn't blindsided by it.
Yeah.
And Ronnie told Jay on stage.
You got me, bro. You got me.
So even Jay, I mean, I should say even because Jay is an intelligent man, but he understood to take this win softly.
Yes. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You don't walk up in your fucking face.
Right. I mean, literally, because that's exactly what it was. Because he did, even when he won, it was, and I remember even after the fact, Jay pointing out that I didn't beat Ronnie at his best. Yeah. I beat him on his way out. You know what I mean? Which was class. You know what I'm saying? It's like he drove home that, and he might have even said, like, this is the best bodybuilder ever. I'm the best bodybuilder today.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was and that's just a class act thing to do. Here's a question. Oh, from a buddy of mine, Ben. How do you get yourself mentally to that next level with intensity? I always see you training at the gym and you're always next level. So I appreciate that, Ben. I guess you go first. I asked it. I don't know. Any little things you do? Like, how do you flip the switch?
So
what is the actual switch?
Here's the thing, and I've analyzed this a ton. There have been moments in my life, if I'm going through hard shit outside of the gym, that I will actually use that intentionally in the gym. But I've mentioned that, I think either it's heard louder or I've mentioned it too many times. The majority of the truth is I love that place. There's literally nothing in the planet I would rather be doing than getting under a stupid amount of weight, going for a number I've never gotten. For some reason, I always know I'm going to get it. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that I do, and I wouldn't even say it gets me into that place, is I do have a little routine before I go that just, it's not even the right words, but reminds me what I'm doing. And my training partners know it now, so they'll even say it sometimes. All I say is make me strong, keep me safe. Like, because that's literally in my head when you get under something crazy. It's like, okay, one mistake and I'm fucked.
Yeah, you're training with some pretty dangerous weights. You got to be aware.
But other than that, man, like it's really not that deep because I just love it. Like it's a scoreboard. I think that's why I love the logbook so much, it's a scoreboard. And the cool thing is I can never win because there's always more weight.
Right.
So it's fun. Like, you know, I don't know. It sucks because I can't explain it to people. I think also if I was going to try to explain it, I would say it's always knowing there's more. Like as intense as I've gotten and where I am now compared to where I used to be is ridiculous. And people used to think that I was hard trainer back then. I just know deep down that there's even more levels above where I'm at that I'll never touch.
Right.
Which is kind of fun. But yeah, it's I don't know. I don't have that thing everyone's looking for because I just fucking love it.
Yeah, I love training too, man. I love the pump. I love mechanically moving weights. I love, you know, having to zone into it and clear my mind. And like I said before about music's like huge. I know some people are like, I'll just put on whatever. And I'm like, oh, like it boggles my fucking mind. Like just put on whatever. Like even our gym, like we play good music, you know, like we crank rap and hip hop and old rock, classic rock, metal, gangster rap. We play good music.
Mm-hmm.
But I could never train without headphones because that would mean I'd have to listen to songs I didn't pick because they're like, you know, this song might be one that's on my playlist, but the next 3 songs might not be songs I'm on. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I have to, that's my environment. Like my headphones are in, like, I can't hear you talking. Like oftentimes after a set, Braden will be like, can you hear me at all? And I'm like, no. He has to like hold fingers in front of my face, you know, like,
right.
And I'm just really into my music. Like it's a huge thing. Like when you see me in the gym, I am listening to my music. Like I'm like when Braden's doing a set and I'm spotting him, mm-hmm. I'm also hearing like, I'm like, fuck, these drums sound good.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like we'll be walking to the next machine and I might think, fuck, that guitar tone's sick on this song. Like
I love that.
I'm really into my music. I'm listening to the guitar tone, the bass lines, or I'll hear a little thing in a song that maybe I've heard like a million fucking times, but I might hear a little, fuck, I never heard that bass note before. He kind of went up on the end of that one, you know? And so I'm always listening to my music. I'm really, really into it. And when I take a second to like focus, you know, let's say I'm about to do a big set, I actually tune into the music. I actually I go into the song and I fucking get the beat in my head and then I like, you know, and go. It's really important to me. It's not just background noise. So that makes me, you know, and another thing too is, you know, people think, I've had people like, oh, here's a song for your workout. And there's something like a death metal song.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm not into death metal. Like intensity is emotion to me.
Right.
So like, I can listen to some heavy stuff. I listen to Pantera and I listen to like, you know, some classic metal and I listen to, you know, I've listened to Slipknot and I've listened to stuff like that. But most of the time it's just, it's intensity, not necessarily heaviness.
Right.
You know, like I'm on a deep dive. I'm on a Van Halen deep dive right now. I mean, some Van Halen music isn't that heavy. It's like arena rock.
Right.
You know, it's like, come on, baby, finish what you started. Like it's not fucking, you know?
Right.
But when I hear it, I think, fuck, this is fun, awesome fucking party music. Like this is fun. I'm having fun. Like I love this guitar riff. These drums sound awesome. This is a party in my head. I'm the only one invited.
Do the voices come? Never mind.
My caffeine is kicking, you know? I'm just having a blast. I'm having fun in the gym. I'm listening to music. It's like my own little house party in there.
Right. I dig that. I think the overtone of this is hopefully for guys is you got to find your space. You know, because you just nailed it. Like think of all the people we've had on and their answer to that question when we've asked and how it's been all over the place. Some guys need to calm themselves down. Some guys are ramping themselves up. Some guys. It's finding that thing that clicks with you. But I think at the end of the day, the true, and I'm not going to say bodybuilders, the true lifters, they're aware that they're doing exactly what they want to do right now.
You know what? It sounds funny. And I know that obviously the pay scale is radically different. But I've watched lots of interviews with like rock stars.
Right.
And they talk about like the hour they're on stage.
Right.
And how no matter how old they are, whether they're 30 or 50 or 60 or however old the band is, that hour has never felt different. It's always the same.
Right.
Like they go in, they play, and they don't think about it. They don't feel like, oh, this is that spot, and I'm 55 years old now. They don't feel. It's just like, this is the same spot. It's the same spot. I'm having a blast. We're all having fun. And that's sort of like, I think a lot of people have that spot where time stands still, and I think you're lucky if you can find that spot and keep it throughout your life, and you go visit it every day. You know what I mean? Like maybe you're a painter, and when you paint, doesn't matter how old you are or what year it is, you're still just in your little creative bubble.
Right. I mean, one factor with that too is some people will go to the gym, and life outside of the gym can affect them. I don't know what it is, and I've had businesses failing, I've had relationships failing. When I walk into a gym, it's like walking through a veil, because I don't give a shit about anything other than this moment. Like, it's the most grounded time of my life is in the gym, because it's the only thing I'm thinking about. It's the only thing I'm wondering about. I don't know what it is. And I'm fortunate, because I know a lot of people get distracted and they can't get in their zone because these things are going on. When I'm in the gym, it's just my time, and I just realized whatever's outside of there will still be waiting for me when I'm done. So enjoy this.
Yeah. I had a discussion with someone the other day about, I guess it ties in with this, being grounded time and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was about, I've told this story before, so I won't retell the whole thing. But when my mom died and my dad called me and said,
Right.
"Hey, your mom slipped away on us last night." And, we had the difficult conversation. It was only about 10 minutes long.
Right.
And I hung up the phone, and like within an hour, I was at the gym training shoulders.
Right.
And I mean, I had a little bit of like, obviously I was kind of like just on autopilot.
Right.
But looking back now, that says a lot about my training and what it means to me. I didn't really consciously make like a calculated decision to go train. It was almost like I just did it in like a haze.
Right.
Like I was about to take my pre-workout. Yeah. I better just continue on with my day as planned, because I otherwise don't have any idea what I'll do with myself.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. What are you supposed to do right now?
Yeah, that's the thing. As I was like, what am I supposed to do? So I just did my normal thing. Mm-hmm. But that tells you what the gym is. If I was supposed to go get groceries, I may have not gotten groceries.
Right. No, I agree. In fact, you definitely would have got groceries. That's not important then. Yeah. I think it's interesting because it's going home, the gym.
That's exactly what it is.
And it doesn't matter where it is.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I really enjoy is when you've gotten to that point. I remember when I first got a membership to the gym I trained at this weekend, actually, it was nerve-wracking. And there were big dudes, and it was a little intimidating and all these things. And now every gym in the world is home. I'm like, oh, there's a gym, even if it's a shitty gym.
Yeah.
You got gravity and weights? Cool.
You got gravity?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and show up for a couple hours. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's a good question. But yeah, I don't think there's a real way to answer how you find that space, because everyone's different. Yeah. It's definitely not the depth that I think that I wish it was, so I could explain it easily. Like you need to think about this and get angry. I'm like, I'm usually pretty happy in the gym.
Yeah. I know. I'm having a party, man.
That is a great example, though, because and like you said, like everything you're doing, I don't do any of that. I don't think about the music. I like upbeat, and I will definitely. I mean, the nice thing about our gym is it is smaller. The radio's not far away, and I will go change a song before a set, and I will absolutely walk in and change the shit music as soon as I get there if they've got some R&B shit on. I'm like, whoever broke up with their girlfriend, I'm sorry, but there's another one. We're moving the fuck on now.
I always joke because, there's kind of that like new age, sort of slow hip hop. That stuff.
I hate it.
I mean, a lot of people like that stuff, but I just fucking loathe that shit. So sometimes I walk into the gym and there'll be like a Drake song on, and I joke, I'm like, "What are we smoking weed and fucking?" Like, why is Drake on? Like, I'll look, like I think to myself, I hate that shit. But a lot of people like it, so we play more of the hip hop in the morning.
Yeah, I think it's good though, because at my gym I don't own the gym, And a lot of people like it. So all they have to do is just don't train when I'm there and it'll be fine.
Right.
Because I'm changing that shit. It's just the way it's going to be. And actually, what's funny is I think because of the time of day that I train, most people there are either in college, working nights, or else they're in a financial position to be there in the middle of the day. Because I'll walk in and change the music, and I'll look over and I'll just see somebody.
Right.
Finally, something we can get going to. All right, we should hit a couple more. We got a little time, dude. Oh, the Hunt for Red October. That's a very valid point.
Oh, yeah, great one. I was talking about that the other day. Hunt for Red October.
How the fuck did I forget that? Thank you for that. I like that I scanned. I'm like, oh shit, valid point.
Yeah. For those just tuning in, we're talking about Sean Connery, just randomly naming movies.
So, thanks, Dusty. I don't know what that was all about.
So
well, the way I'm always goofing off, it would make sense. I just randomly say shit.
So I remember when I went to see the Hunt for Red October, my brother took me to the theater to see it.
Right.
He's like, I gotta go see this movie. You gotta come with me. And he took me to this old theater in Vancouver because I was visiting him at the time and he was out here going to med school. And we went to this old theater downtown. I don't even think if it's still there now. And it was one of those old style where there's only one screen and it's huge. Like it wasn't the new style theaters that have 10 screens, you know?
Right.
Go to this old theater, big ass brick fucking building, one giant screen.
Playing one movie.
One movie, yeah. And we sat in the front row of the balcony. So, you know, you're halfway to the screen, but you're up high, so it's just the best seat.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that was the first time I saw a movie where they had like surround, like the surround
I love that
sound.
Yeah.
Back in the 80s. And so, you know, it's a submarine movie. So you hear like the pong, you know, the subs ping, ping, you know, the radar sound that would like go around you in the room.
Yeah.
And it was like the first time I heard that in a movie. And I was like, oh, fuck, this is awesome. And now you go to movies and your seats vibrate and fucking jump up all. You got all that shit.
Yeah. I get teased all the time because obviously my theater that I enjoy going to is very, very me. They have waiters. You can get a glass of wine if you want.
There you go.
I'm like, what? It's hardcore. You just don't understand.
Yes.
I'm gonna do two questions here for you, Ron, and because I want your answers on them. One is, can anyone, in your opinion, get to that huge 300 or so pound mark? Obviously, the look of the physique will differ, but can anyone get to that next level of size? Or is that only certain people's frames and genetics? And then kind of a combined question another guy asked, if you're trying to move up a weight class, how much weight would you go above the weight class to get there?
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Well, I mean, 300 pounds, so I'm 6 foot, half inch. I have a big frame and I had to eat, sleep, and train and dedicate my life to being a bodybuilder, to be a 300-pound bodybuilder. So to be 5'8" and hit 300, that's fuck. That's to me, that's just amazing because I was six foot and I had a hard time being, getting big enough to be, legit 300-pounder. So the guys that are 5'8" walking around, you got Nick Walker at an easy 290 at 5'7" or whatever he is.
Right. Yeah.
It's just mind boggling. But so no, I say not everyone can get to 300. To get to 300, you either have to have a big ass frame like me, or you have to have insane genetic ability to carry tissue.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to dedicate at least a decade of your life to just eating like a fucking animal. Cause I don't care what you say, you're not lean gaining your way to 300 pounds.
No. And even if you throw away the word or the weight 300 pounds and just went into being a true freak,
that's essentially what it means.
Yeah. There's a genetic component to that, just like anything. I think that people overstate genetics because when you and I are talking about people with phenomenal genetics, we're literally talking about the 0.001s, the Phil Heaths, the Dexter Jacksons. You have ridiculous genetics for bodybuilding compared to 90% of people.
Exactly. My genetics were good enough that I was able to win 2 nationals and turn pro.
Right. And not everyone can do that.
Which is technically, when you talk about percentage wise, that's very, very high up.
Yep.
And then to go to Phil Heath. That's like, I don't know, fucking stratosphere of ability to develop your body.
Yep.
I always say this, and it's a joke, but really, really let this sink in. If you take all the food and all the drugs and you give them to a pit bull and a chihuahua, what happens?
Right.
You tie the pit bull to a fucking sled, give him some D-ball and a bunch of beef, and have him pull that sled every day. That dog's going to get fucking muscular and scary looking.
Yep.
You hook that sled to the chihuahua, give him all the D-ball and all the dog food and all the beef, and he's going to get more muscular, and he'll be a more muscular chihuahua. And there's going to be still a chihuahua. And there's going to be a massive amount of difference in the amount of size change. The chihuahua might increase his muscle mass by 100%.
Right.
And he still looks like nothing next to the pit bull, that even if the pit bull half-ass pulled the sled and skipped a few meals,
yeah,
the pit bull's still going to double his muscle mass. You know, like there's just, if you just think about it, like you genetically, the average person out there, what breed of dog are you genetically? Can you ever be a pit bull?
This is like my friend Mike, who is his gym is literally based around pit bulls. I could totally see his brain spinning because it's so accurate.
Right, right.
Would you ever be a real pit bull?
Like if you have, you know, the dream of like crushing an overall victory at a bodybuilding show, then, you know, you better at least be a German Shepherd.
Right.
And have a good razor, to shave all the hair off. But you better at least be something other than a Chihuahua or a Dachshund. You're not, like, you know what I mean? Like genetics. I mean that.
But that's
not
why
everyone,
it's fun to chase, man. Because
that's exactly
you establish your goal based on what breed you are. Like, I never include, like, at no point in my entire life did I get confused on who I was. I thought that turning pro was an enormous goal that I could absolutely achieve.
Right.
And that many people would think I couldn't achieve.
Yeah.
And I think that that same goal can take place for somebody who says, you know what, dude, I'm going to win the Arizona Open one day. I might do that show for 10 fucking years, but one day I can win the Arizona Open. And I think that that guy probably can.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? And I think that it's a reminder, and I'm kind of bringing this up crossways because I had a client say this to me one time. He goes, well, I understand that you train a lot of guys for pro shows, so this doesn't mean much. And I was like, no, this is your fucking Olympia. It means everything.
And also, I would never want to discourage a Chihuahua from being the best goddamn Chihuahua he can be. Because a Chihuahua can win the overall at an entry-level show.
Absolutely.
Which is really good, right?
I'm really glad we went with Chihuahua instead of Yorkie. Just saying.
Yeah.
I didn't want these two to get offended. They can hear it. You know what I mean? Donna takes this shit personally. So.
That's so funny.
But as far as the other question about moving up a class without going too long, since we're already here, my rule of thumb, and I, like you said, Ron, I hate to use the word old school, but what I was taught and what I teach is eat for the weight you want to be, not the weight you are.
It's exactly it. We've gone over that a few times. Eat for the weight you want to be. The first year that you, like, if let's say you're already at the point where you have to move up the class, like last show you fucking had to kill yourself to make weight, and there's just no way you're doing it again, and you already have enough muscle to at least be in the new class, and you're just trying to go really up. You know, that's going to be the year you're going to, like, how do I say this? Like, you got to go for it.
Yeah.
You want to waste your time. Like, you're going to have to eat up. Make sure you go up. So eat for the weight you want to be. So I don't know. What would you say if a guy was shooting for top of the heavyweights? Like, let's say he had 220 pounds of lean muscle mass on his body.
Mm-hmm.
What's your limit for off-season weight?
These always suck because you know this as much as I do. It is person to person, but assuming he's got decent genetics to come down, and he was trying to get to 225, and he was moving up a class, so we're talking about he has a 20-pound window, then I would not be afraid to push him to 270, 260. to come down to 225 inside out shredded.
Yeah.
I think earlier in your career, this is where people get a little bit confused, and I've had it worded against me before, is, well, you stay so lean. I'm like, but I didn't. That's not my goal anymore. If I just focus on getting better, bigger, I'll get worse as a bodybuilder now. Like I considered doing it just because I wanted to see if I had it in me to do that again, because it sucks, as you know, to eat that amount of food. And I didn't know if I had the balls to do it anymore, to be honest with you. And I didn't, and I never did. So that was that. But truthfully, you got to look back at when people were trying to make that mark. I was fat and big and strong. And my only focus was don't get so heavy that like the low back pumps hurt the training. So everything was based on, is this the strongest I can be?
I remember many, many, many years where the only thing I cared about was I'd pull my shirt up and go, okay, I could still see my abs.
They're still there pretty much.
I can still see them. And my midsection's pretty lean. Like I could see my abs at 320.
Yeah, you're like me. My low back would be fat as shit and I have abs.
Yeah, I'd have fat legs, no cuts in my quads, no, kind of like just kind of gross, but I'd have some abs and I'd be like, okay, I can keep eating, order a pizza, and I just keep eating. So yeah, and then also size of your frame that dictates how high up above your weight class you can go. Obviously, going to 270 for a heavyweight is different than 50 pounds for a lightweight.
Yeah, no, I like to use percentages.
Yeah, percentages
more than anything, because yeah, people love to do that, and I'm like, well, but my percentage.
You said I
of
can
body
gain 50 pounds.
Yeah, but you're 125. It's a problem. So, but yeah, I mean, definitely push for weight, and I think that's the only thing that we had the true benefit of was like in the world we're in now, it is a little more difficult to just commit to the fact that you're going to get fucking heavy, you're going to look shitty. I remember at one point, Ron, and I'm sure this happened to you, I had a guy come over that was in my ex-wife's like church, and I don't go to church. So he came to my house, and I was in my house with a shirt off, and he goes, "Oh, I thought you were a bodybuilder," because I was fat. And he didn't mean to insult me, but people think bodybuilder, they think of magazine, and you're in shape, right, and you got abs and you're ripped, and I was just big fat fuck. And in his brain, he was like,
you thought, oh, he's a weightlifter.
Yeah, no, he's just fat. I mean, literally, like, I'm sure, and she had probably amped me up better than I was anyways. Yeah, but very funny, that perception, because now with the social media era, everyone's like, oh, I thought you were a bodybuilder. I only had to cry once when the guy came to my house. You guys have to do it all the time.
One last one. I saw you got some artwork touched up.
Yes.
So what'd you get done, Dusty?
Well, I had both arms completely redone, which was just the original work that AJ, my tattoo artist, did on my left arm, which they're actually scabbing over now. But it had lost some detail because it was 3 years ago, and I tan and do everything else. So I booked 8 hours with him to retouch everything. Plus, he had switched ink, and my new tattoos were the new ink, and they looked better. And then I actually had one more piece done to my hand because I had time. So it's fun because I'm at the point now. I've had a lot of people that are like, oh, what about bodybuilding? And I'm like, my bodybuilding career has nothing to do with the stage at all anymore. Well,
plus I think your hands are safe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everything. I mean, the piece of my right arm that goes all the way to my shoulder, I would have it covered to compete again, and I will compete this year because I want to. But it's literally for me. I've really come to the conclusion I cannot put myself through what I put myself through for a show without one. Right. So, and I want to do it one more time. I want to get peeled out of my head one more time. So I'm gonna do another show. But yeah, it's a new passion of mine. And I think what's kind of fun in this case, a lot of people are like, why would you do that? It ruins your physique. And I'm like, well, if you're looking from a bodybuilding standpoint, yes. But I'm not.
I asked you because first of all, your art's really cool because your tattoos are the type of tattoos. Well, I don't know. I like all different kinds of art on people. I'm an admirer of tattoos.
Right.
But I have a question here. Since I'm not competing anymore, would I get any? And the answer is absolutely not. I don't ever see a tattoo on my body. Right. I've never had one. I've never wanted one. But I admire when people have great art or interesting pieces or a piece that means something to them. Or they might even have a wacky tattoo on their arm that makes no sense. And I'll go, what's that? And they're like, oh, I was on holidays with my best friend in Thailand and we both got, like, there's always I like it when there's a story.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's fine. And I don't have a problem with them on other people. I just have never wanted one. But that's also me. I don't own any jewelry. I don't have any piercings. I don't have any tattoos. I like to travel light.
It's actually a great description. You know what's interesting though is for me the art side has become more about my tattoo artist than me.
Right.
It blows my mind every single time because he busts out a Bic pen. I tell him what I'm looking for, and he just draws it on me. Half the time we don't have a picture.
Yeah.
And he just runs with it. Like
yeah.
And it's funny. So his random story, but his father just died and he posted a picture. He's been painting the sides of buildings now. And he did a piece of his dad on the side of a building. And I was like, hey, how long did that take? Spray paint. You know what I mean? He goes, 6 hours. What? Hey, well, how many people helped you? No one. You went out there with spray paint and a ladder, and you painted the entire side of a building. And I knew his dad, so it is his dad. And I'm like, I can, because we don't write anymore. When I have to write a card, it looks like I'm holding the pen like this, and I'm using a crayon because it's so terrible. And I'm going slow, trying to make it look good. And I'm like, I can't draw a stick man and you can do this. It just baffles my brain, And it is fun because I get literally, especially since I've had these touched, I am fascinated by the type of people that are into art because just like you, I at one point had a lady just recently, I was walking down the aisle at the grocery store, which I loved because everyone's so afraid of everything. And this older woman literally grabbed my arm. I was walking by and I stopped and she goes, I love your tattoos. And I'm talking like 80. And I'm like, you do? Awesome. Also love that you don't give a fuck and you just grab my arm because that's cool.
That's funny.
But yeah, no, I could see, what's funny now is back in the day, having a tattoo made you different. Now you're the most different creature on the planet because you don't have any.
I just feel like I'm too late. Like if I show up now with a tattoo, I'm like Will Ferrell coming through the back door of a frat house party with a case of beer saying, I made it. And everyone turns to me and they're like, we're already done partying, dude.
You're so bad. I love your vision of the world. I want to spend a week watching through your eyes.
One more before we go real quick. Worst business move you've ever heard of in bodybuilding?
Okay. For me, the worst business move ever was when they pulled Phil Heath from the call out and everyone decided not to go to finals because they had already announced that Phil won in prejudging. They didn't bring him out for the last call out.
What year was that?
I don't even remember. But I remember being there and saying to myself, even though I already knew and everyone already knew. Right.
You still want to see it.
You just told me.
Yeah. Now I'm going to go to dinner tomorrow night and see a Circus Olay show because I know who's winning.
Well, what's funny is I actually didn't come back.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's funny because I already knew, but that was one of those things where I was stunned. I'm like, that's dumb. Okay, go ahead. What's yours?
It's my one regret about the Jay Cutler interview.
Oh, our interview.
Didn't ask him about Beats by Jay.
I don't know if I call it a business decision, but
I had it written down.
You did?
I did. I had it written down. I was going to bring up Beats by Jay. I wanted to know because, Jay, I was like, it was the worst idea he's ever had, but I bet he made money on it.
Well, you have to admit,
I was going to ask him, how much money did you make on that? Was it at least break even? And I bet he made money on it and he would have laughed.
Well, it's like, do you remember when he, one thing I love about business is people only remember your good stuff.
Yeah. You forgot about it, didn't you?
Well, yeah, but do you remember when Jay came out with the scissors that were etched his signature into them?
Yeah, for cutting meat.
For cutting food, because he cut meat with scissors.
And people saw his videos.
And people started wanting to cut meat with scissors, and he said to himself, fuck it, I bet you I could sell some scissors.
I started doing it too, chopping up shit with. I was like, how could I not think of that?
But it is funny though, because obviously it didn't make him enough money to keep doing it.
Right.
But
Couldn't
I just love the fact that, he just did it. I mean, that is business. Because you know what? People come up with an idea that seems silly. Like, I met the guy way off.
You're killing it, bro.
Yeah, with some random thing. I met the guy who invented the elbow of a PVC pipe. I'm like, wait a minute, it didn't always turn? Someone had to invent that? What the fuck would be the point without that? So that's a prime example. Or the guy who invented the noodle, or Jay comes out with the scissors and they blow up and all of a sudden he's selling scissors all over who fucking knows? But you got to go for it to find out. Yeah. And when you're as successful as Jay, or look at Rob and Dana, like the gym issue that they had, Matt said to me, he literally sent me the clip of Rob breaking it down. He goes, it sucks that I could have saved that business easily.
Yeah.
But they're so good at business that in a couple of years, no one will even remember that business failed. Because the other 776 they have are killing it. And the 3 that you and I never heard about didn't work are gone.
By the sounds of it, he shut it down like suddenly.
Well, I think what it was is they were going to have to sign another lease. And why would they sign a lease on a losing business?
Yeah, that was it. They were like, they pushed right to the end. They're like, fuck it. And just pulled the pin.
Yeah, you're fine. You lived out your lease.
Yeah. Is that really a fail?
Trust me, I've not lived out leases before. It's not a fail if you can make it through.
When you live out your lease and you sell off your equipment and you walk away from it without having to, like, I don't know, you don't even have to declare bankruptcy or anything. You just close the gym and sell your equipment.
Yeah, it is what it is. People do it all the time.
It is what it is. Yeah. It's like saying a previous relationship was a fail. It was many great years, and now we're both better people. Right?
Learning
experience. A fail.
You made me better for the next one.
Oh, Dusty. You make me better, Dusty.
Yeah, I feel that way. I do. You've learned what not to do.
So was that the perfect live show?
Well, I think so, because I forgot completely.
Well, so that's the first attempt. The reason we're doing a live show for you guys today, wrapping up, is because we are recording with a guest this week. He's an Olympia contender, and we're looking forward to it. But we got to record at a weird time, so we might not have a show for you on Wednesday like we normally do. But this is going to go back up, I assume. This will stay up.
Yeah, we'll repost this on Wednesday. Yeah,
and we'll be good to go. But we're definitely on top of things, guys, getting you some great shows. So remember to like, share, subscribe, comment, and hit that bell so you get the notifications. And it's going to be an interesting day tomorrow. Make sure you're stocked up on ammo and canned food. And good luck to everybody in America. Borders closed, buddy.
Enjoy yourself up there.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Remember, everybody, it's just bodybuilding.
And I don't know what to do wrong because we're still live. I can't just talk.